Bear came up real strong when they came down and yelled, "All Americans and Englishmen line up." Well, instead of murder, they made us go fight the fire, and we were barefooted. So a bunch of GIs hot-footing it around, you might say. One day they lined us up and took our shirts off and put a little green X here on our chest. And gave us all an injection. They didn't give a new needle each time. I don't think they ever changed needles except it broke or something. But anyway, there's 168 of us got vaccinated, injected. They gave us another, going to give us another injection, but somehow I hid. I don't know where I hid, but I didn't want any more of that. In Buchenwald, we were sitting there and they said not to be transferred. But one of the Communist Society in Buchenwald had a man working in the office, and he saw an order come through from Hitler to kill us. Well, he told his head man, and his head man told our head man, but the head man didn't tell us. But we couldn't escape because we didn't have any hair on our head, and barefooted, and electric fences, and if you'd escaped and been gone for more than 3 days, they'd shoot you because you had to steal to eat. So what the story is, how we got out was the German Air Force had sent an officer in to survey the damage, and I don't know how come he would be down where we were, but that's the story, and that's part of a movie that's out. They wanted us to fill out the papers when he came in to get us out. We refused like we did in France, but he said, well, you can just rot in here, in words of German. After that, our officers got us together and said, nothing we're going to tell them can help them win the war. So let's call them back and see if they'll come back and we can give them a little bit of truth, a little bit of falsehood and whatever, but we got to get out of here. So 3 days after we did that, 3 days later, they called out our names and we went out the gate at Buchenwald. And in German, during the war, their Air Force was more highly esteemed than their Army. And they extended that thinking to American airmen, or Allied airmen. So I got into Buchenwald with 70 in the car. I left Buchenwald. They had 10 cars to haul 168 men. The straw was on the floor. They had a heater. This was in November, and the door was open, but we weren't about to escape because we were going to go to a prisoner of war camp. Well, after a 3-day train ride, we ended up at Stalag Luft 3. That was a place that was more like the Hilton because it had Red Cross International Red Cross participation. They've had uniforms for us. I got a complete uniform, including a big heavy overcoat, which would come in handy later on. They got Red Cross parcels, which would have powdered milk and powdered coffee and cheese and Spam and prunes or raisins, crackers or cigarettes, chocolate bar. And with that, plus what the Germans gave us to eat, we weren't hungry. Through the International Red Cross, we got sporting equipment, we got musical instruments, we got books to read. They had a little theater in the South Compound where we put on plays and musical. Those of you, I can say to you now that on Saturday night we had a Lucky Strike hit parade because you know how we love big band music. And our torch singer was a young fellow in a silver evening gown and a blonde wig, and we had a big time there. Give you some idea of the spirit in there. Before our group was accepted, in the prunes and the raisins that was in the Red Cross parcels, the boys fermented them and used a trombone for a still and made alcohol, and the Germans frowned on that. So then they cooked them before they let us have them. But this particular night, the 29th of January 1945, and the play in the theater was Shakespeare, You Can't Take It With You. Colonel Goodrich come in and said the goons, that was our word for Germans, the goons say we have to leave. So we evacuated the camp. It was about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. It was one of the coldest winters in like 100 years in Germany. The Battle of the Bulge was in that same winter. And we stood out to be counted and so forth outside the gate with the guards and the dogs. And they put the south compound, that was my compound, we started out. The guards went with us, but according to the reading that's written, the dogs didn't go because it was not a fit night out for the dogs. But the temperature was -4.
Air chill. -4. The air chill.
Yeah, chill factor was -4. We stood there for a good while. Our feet got kind of frozen and so forth. But they marched us for 26 hours. We'd gone 34 miles. And some of our men died on that trip, on that march. Colonel Scottish priest, or not a Scottish priest, Scottish chaplain, wrote in his memoirs that he was called, Jenkins, an All-American football player, decided to die. So he went back and closed his eyes, but before Jenkins died, he wanted to give him part of his rations. But the chaplain went back, and he said the call came again and again before we got to where we were going. We ended up in a town that had a big tile factory, and it was warm, and the Germans let us stay there for 30 hours and gave us a bowl of soup. So they marched us another 15 miles and put us back in boxcars that had been used to hauling, had been used to haul cattle, and I think some pigs, and they didn't clean it out. Then we back in boxcars again, and we ended up at Stalag 7A. That was an army camp that was built for 17,000. And when Patton's tanks knocked the fences down on April the 29th, I believe, there was 130,000 of us in there. We got hungry, but we survived enough with the help of the Red Cross. Once again, they brought trucks in and with Red Cross parcels, so we were able to have enough food to keep us upright and mobile, as I would say. That was a terrible place. A building that was built for 200, 500. There'd be 700, 800 in there. Some people was in tents out on the ground. I haven't. We had little Kriege stoves. I had a picture, but anyway, it was a little way where we took like a 1 pound coffee can in the old days and put a fan inside of it and put a pulley on it, and then took another can, I took a cocoa can and made a little tunnel over to a bigger can where you'd put your food, your fuel, and then you put what you're trying to warm up, and you sit there and grind that wheel, and like a blacksmith's, blacksmith, how they would be able to get the real hot. Well, that was our way of doing a little bit of getting something warm to eat. The Germans were so nice that they let us go out in the woods and bring in wood for our stoves, but they didn't know that we were taking up the floor and burning the subfloor and putting the floor back down. But on Sunday morning, we could hear the ammunition and so forth out in in the distance, and it was the tank forces coming to rescue us. The part of the camp was the younger Germans was guarding us, and some of the older ones were guarding us, and the older ones wanted to surrender and the young ones didn't, so they were shooting at each other, and we had to dodge bullets. But here we were in the conditions that you might expect, and the Army came in and took over, brought us in food and so forth, so we were doing pretty good. But we heard that the Congress was going to send a delegation over to see how bad we had it, and the Army made us clean up the camp. Then, when that fences came down, I saw a sight I'll never forget. Our flag was being hoisted up on a smokestack for a cheese factory outside the camp. And when I saw that, all my fear subsided. I would be going home. I got to get myself together. I want to leave you with these words as best as I can remember, from an ex-POW to a student. And he said, what my captors failed to realize, that they shaved my head, starved me, starved my body, denied me human rights, and there's some other words to go with that. I said a flag, and what it stood for, fluttered in my heart. God watched over me. My companions supported me, and I survived. Now, as I said, I can't really express that any better. I sure wish you'd seen that. You can see that film. But if you've got a few minutes,
They've got another group.
I've got another speaker.
Another group that's coming.
Another group's coming in. Okay, then I was just okay. So I won't.
So, no, she said
When I'm finished, we're finished.
when.
All right. Well, that's the reason that I try to get the students to hear the sacrifices that gave them the freedom for them to sit in school, and some of them not even want to say the Pledge of Allegiance. But I'm sorry I didn't have the film, because it lasted 40 minutes and it had a lot of stuff in it that I can't recall right now under the suspense of standing up here. So thank you very much. Is there any questions? Well, all men's cleared. My mind is certainly cleared. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Really?
We are going to close and leave with that, let's see, who knows the song? God be with you till we meet again. By His counsel God uphold you. With His truth dearly hold you. God be with you till we meet again. Till we meet